It's tosh time! Welcome to the David Eagle podcast for the 5th to the 11th of March. Now, I haven't edited all the bits together yet. I was going to say this is going to be quite a short podcast because it's a very busy week, but I think I've been saying that quite a lot of recent, and then it turns out it's not really that short. They all exceed an hour. I don't know whether this one's going to exceed an hour or not. There's no point me deliberating about whether it will exceed an hour or not because, firstly, you can see how long the podcast is. Secondly, if I start talking about why it may or may not exceed an hour, then chances are it will exceed an hour because I'll have spent 3 minutes rambling on about why it may or may not exceed an hour. So, let's move on. It's a very busy week this week, so my intention was just to record short episodes. I'm not entirely sure if I succeeded in doing that, but what will be coming up this week, we shall be playing a variety of gig clips ranging from 2024 all the way back to 2012, 5 or 6 years before I started doing stand-up. We have a gig clip from London, which I am playing because I was looking in the archives for relevant clips to do with International Women's Day. I'm not entirely sure if I found anything particularly pertinent, but I did find a clip called I Smell Woman. So I thought, well, what a fitting tribute to International Women's Day that will be. Talking of International Women's Day, Ellie will be celebrating that. And National Book Day as well. Why do women get recognised globally, but books only get recognised nationally? Absolutely no idea about that. I'm fighting for the cause to make books just as important as women. It's a campaign I'm very passionate about. But Ellie will be celebrating both of those events by, before each day's segment, taking one of her favourite books related to feminism or women's social history and stories and just saying a little bit about them, and hopefully, this is a bit of a dangerous thing really, because what we're doing is we're sort of recommending other things that you might want to do with your time that's probably better for you, and we'll give you 7 options. But basically is saying, why not do something else other than listen to the David Eagle podcast? Now, last week's walk was very eventful indeed. This week's walk is rather eventful as well, but for very different reasons. The dog stories are proving very popular, so I have unearthed another dog-based clip for you. We've got another example of a technological regression masquerading as technological progression. Technology is meant to make our lives better, but often it can tie us in knots. So we'll be having a look at one of those this week. And we start things off with a gig clip from Derby, where just before I go on stage, a bit of a scandal was revealed involving 2 audience members, and high drama ensued. All that and more coming up on this week's episode of the David Eagle podcast. Enjoy.
So, we're going to start off with Femina by Janina Ramirez, who is a historian, and this is a new history of the Middle Ages and the women who were written out of it. And it's a really lovely book. It's really interesting. So she covers decision makers, warriors and leaders, artists and patrons, scientists, spies, all sorts of women from the Middle Ages. This includes Ethelfled, who was Alfred the Great's daughter, Hildegard of Bingham, who wrote quite a lot of books about sort of her visions. People think that she may have had aura migraines and that's what led to her visions. There's also a whole section about a place in Sweden where they found this Viking warrior and they thought it was a man, and it's turned out that it's a woman. So this is all very interesting. So that's a good one if you like a bit of history.
Today's gig clip comes from Derby, 2024. And this would have been the early summer, and I was doing a preview show for my debut Edinburgh Fringe Festival show, Eagle is Candid, and it turns out I wasn't the only person who was being candid that afternoon. I had very much been out-trumped with the candid element of the gig. So this is a day where people can pay a certain amount of money and they can watch all of the shows that are taking place in this venue over the course of the day. It's a number of people who turn up and do previews to test out their show. So I turned up about an hour and a half before I was going on, and so I got to see the show that was on before me. This will actually be mentioned in the show. She was talking about the fact that she made fudge as a hobby. And after the show, she was selling fudge as like a sort of a merch thing that you could get. I don't know how popular it was. I mean, someone in the audience certainly needed some fudge because they'd just been given a very bitter pill to swallow. My goodness, you have no idea what I'm talking about, but that was quite a good little link there. We'll find out why a little bit later on. My aim for this show, it wasn't to be particularly improvising or chatting to the audience or anything like that. It was to make sure that my show worked, to test out a lot of this stuff on this audience. And I think some people hadn't necessarily got their whole show sorted yet, and so they were maybe padding a little bit for time by talking to people in the audience. There was one particular comedian who apparently had just been on, which I had missed. I think maybe they'd just planned on asking someone in the audience one question and assumed that it would maybe maybe elicit a 10-second response at the very most, and then they'd get back to their material and they'd be able to test stuff out. That's not what happened. Their entire gig was essentially derailed because of what happened with this audience interaction. This comedian asked someone in the audience a question, asked this woman in the audience a question. Maybe something innocuous like, oh, are you two a couple? Because she was sat next to someone, are you two a couple? And she said, well, yes, we are. Or we're meant to be anyway. Immediately, that's asking questions. What the heck's this all about? So he had to inquire further, and she was not backward in coming forward. And then there was some story about the fact that he had had an affair. And I think it was quite recently. And this was a little outing, maybe their first outing back, to see if they could mend the wound. And I'm not entirely sure that she'd entered into the spirit of that particularly well, because she was now essentially outing him. He was sat there outing him in front of the whole audience. He was already apparently looking rather sheepish. Apparently the person he ended up having an affair with, that was the problem. She's got a bit of a predilection for people who look like agricultural livestock, and she just couldn't resist. So I think the story was they'd both gone on holiday together. On the holiday, they'd met this couple, and they'd got chatting to them, and they got on really well. But it turns out that maybe the husband and the other husband's wife had got on a little bit too well. And they'd either got together over that holiday. I don't think that was probably the case. I think what probably happened is they messaged each other on Facebook and decided that they liked each other and they were going to have a rendezvous. And this is when the affair began. And I think they'd seen each other a few times. And he'd told her, his wife, that he was going on a business trip. And she'd obviously given her husband some kind of story as well. But obviously what they were doing was meeting up and having this affair. And it all came to a head. Well, we don't need to know the details, David. But it all came to a head, which apparently was very good, when she managed to discover somewhere in his bag some lingerie that wasn't hers. I don't know more of the details. There must have been some kind of clue, maybe a note or something like that, in the bag with the lingerie, and that revealed all rather aptly. And so rather than confronting him about this, she decided to message the other husband and say, I think my husband and your wife are having an affair. And the husband didn't then confront his wife about it. He managed to do a little bit of digging. I don't know what he did, but he managed to do a little bit of digging and worked out that the clues led to her having an affair with this man. So they've both done a bit of clandestine detective work. So then they decided what they would do, they'd arrange a meeting between them all. So they'd say, oh, you remember that couple that we saw? Wouldn't it be good if we all met up again? And they'd confront them at that meeting. And that's what happened. So they all met up, obviously the two of them having no idea that they'd been rumbled. And basically it just came out. They just said, we know what you've been doing. And so she's telling this entire story. The audience are absolutely gripped. The comedian's like, now thinking, my God, this is completely run away with me. I was meant to be road testing stuff for my Edinburgh Fringe show, and now we've got this. And the woman said, so they agreed that they weren't going to see each other again, and we've taken our respective partners back, and we're trying to move on with it. And this is our first outing as a couple since that time. And apparently he just looked absolutely crestfallen that she told this story. But what's weird about it is they stayed around, apparently. They were there for the next comedian, and apparently they stuck around for my set as well. Maybe the only thing that united these two was their love of me. Maybe that's what it was. It's like, if we can see David Eagle, we'll laugh together, and he can mend our wounds. So they stuck around. And it wasn't mentioned for the next comedian. The next comedian didn't mention anything. And so when I arrived, the organiser of the gig essentially was like, David, you've got to mention this. And he told me this story. And he said, I'm relying on you to mention it. It'll be absolutely brilliant. You've got to mention it. I did make a couple of little mentions to it because he was so keen for me to mention it. He's like, I couldn't wait. I knew the other comedian wasn't going to mention it, but I thought when David turns up. So I thought, well, he books a lot of gigs. I don't want to let him down. I don't want to not get booked for gigs because I haven't made a couple of mentions to this couple and the affair story. So I did make a few references to it. So that's what's going on in this little clip as we head to Derby.
Thank you, Mike. There we go. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. There we go. Oh, thank you very much. It's lovely to be introduced because it hasn't happened at all of the previews. Some of the previews I've just had to sort of awkwardly sidle on and just go, we're starting. And that's how the gig starts. Other times, I've been encouraged to introduce myself, but I always find that's quite a height of arrogance, really. Please welcome David Eagle, and hello. So it's nice again. I did a gig, one of the previews recently, where the organiser, I was just about to go on, and he said, oh, would you like me to introduce you onto the stage? I said, yes, please, but I thought that'll be a lot less awkward. I was wrong about that. Because what happened was the microphone turns on, the music fades down, the lights change, apparently, and audience grows silent, and then he goes, sorry, what's your name again? The audience are pacing themselves laughing. Best laugh of the night as well. I've been heckled before I'd even come out onto the stage. So there we are. He's like, yes, I am David Eagle. I am, as you've already probably, I'm a comedian. I'm blind. Thank you. A fan of blindness in the audience. Is that someone? What? A what? Okay, excellent. I like the fact you've mistaken. I know that you think that blind people have other sensory abilities, but it's not we can't predict what you're about to say. You just think while I'm talking, you can just go say anything, and I'll go, yeah, spot on, mate. Because I'm working out what bits work and what bits don't for the end of a Fringe show, so we can't really do heckles. But if you think you've got a good heckle, see me at the end, give it to me in writing, and. Even better if it's in Braille. That'll be good. And then we can put them on social media if they're any good. It also means that my put-downs will be a lot better because I'll have time to think about it. So everyone's a winner there. And if this doesn't go well for me, I don't have a backup. I haven't got a side hustle of fudge selling. You know. I can't. I can't do, also, by the way, what some people have been doing on the gigs tonight, where they've been chatting to individual audience members, obviously not knowing where anybody is. The only way I can do that is just to go, you're my friend with a body odour. Someone's sweating. It's almost like it's been outed for having an affair. Anyway, my goodness. I mean... Doesn't matter how good I am, I'm not going to be the highlight this evening. But now it's time to leave the safety of your family home. Oh? The heck was that? Something what?
A plug dropped out.
A plug dropped out? What, of your backside? What? My goodness. I mean, that's heavy duty, that, my friend. My goodness. All together now. I get him, my dog. Just the people who've had an affair. No, it's fine. We're not going to mention it again. We're not. Sorry, there we go. Right. We're not going to mention it again. I think I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it. Anyway. Always interesting to know how that song's going to go down, by the way, because the most nervous I was at a gig recently. I launched into it, and I suddenly thought, is this a good idea? I suddenly remembered where I was. It was a Christian festival. But I was really surprised. They absolutely loved it. I went all together now, and 1,000 Christians went, I'm killing my dog for Satan! Well, you can't read some audiences. Weirdly, they hated my bespoke comedy song about St. Paul's second letter to the Corinthians. It's all about forgiveness. Anyway, being sort of used to being on stage in a folk sing capacity, if the laughter starts flagging a little bit out of nerves and spite, I am just going to launch into a 50-verse folk ballad about war, murder and incest. Oh, can you imagine if it was with his sister? Oh, and I've just ruffled another feather. Oh, no. No. Sorry. People said you should talk about the blindness when you do the stand-up. I thought, I'm not sure if I want to, really. I had all these sort of ideas, these radical ideas of my comedy being paradigm-shifting. So there I was on my very first gig. To do my non-blind-related paradigm-shifting comedy, I took one step forward, and of course the first thing that happens is I crash into the microphone stand, sending it flying. The microphone cable gets caught around my legs. I'm now lying on my back with my legs in the air. Sound familiar? And in... You won't mention it. Stop it! If you didn't encourage me, no. I'm going to have to take you away to every gig now. It's, as I'm lying on the stage with my legs in the air, in that moment, I thought, I think you're going to have to address the blindness now. But I think being blind is it's a good subject for comedy, because a lot of funny things happen as a result of being blind. Sorry, I'm not trying to advertise it to any of you as a lifestyle choice. Put the spark back in your marriage. Why not try blindness, No, I'm having a drink. We're getting the audio description there. Have we Have we got other blind people in the audience? Yeah. All right. I just thought there might be like a dilettante commentator in the audience. And he's been commentating on everything. What you haven't told them is I've been doing this entire gig with me cock out. Anyway.
The second book I want to talk about is Invisible Women, which is Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez. And this talks about, in the introduction, how the world is default set for men, because a lot of the decisions are made by men. They view the world as they see it, and women aren't always considered. So part of this is things like crash test dummies are all male-shaped. And so when you put on a seatbelt, that's designed for a male body. It's not designed for somebody with breasts. There's the myth of meritocracy, and that you get something because you're good at it, not because you've got that leg up by having been born with a penis. So this one, it's got quite a lot to it. It's quite hard reading all in one go, but I think it's worth it if you're a bit interested in a different vision of how to see the world.
Okay, listeners. Come on. Walkies. Come on, Olivia. Stop dawdling. The nipples are primed. If you've not listened to the previous one, you'll have no idea what that's about. But anyway. Oh, you're right.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent, very good, yeah. Yeah. Who have you got with you this time? Oh, you've got a number of dogs.
Yes, you've got a stick.
Oh, you got the stick?
You've got a stick.
Ah, it's very exciting. Excellent. See you later. There we are. That's our next door neighbour there, making an appearance. I won't name her. I know to a lot of people, I've said this before, we have podcast pilgrims. People who like to know all the various characters, and they become podcast characters, and then people will try and track them down, try and record their movements. I mean, knowing my luck, what'll probably happen is someone will set up a podcast spin-off series based on my next door neighbour. Someone and I gone, oh, she sounded like an absolutely brilliant character there with the dogs. We might have to get some kind of noise-cancelling software, perhaps, to try and phase out the dogs, because you won't really actually hear what she's saying because of the dogs. But once we've implemented a dog removal algorithm, DRA, we'll be absolutely fine. Or DRA, if you prefer. But the trouble is, I'll be talking to my next-door neighbour. Oh, God, there they are. The fans are out, heaping their horns. I've been spotted, and I suddenly find out my next-door neighbour comes up and knocks on the door and says, I just want to thank you, David, because I hadn't realised you were recording when I said hello to you in the street. And I got some media mogul bigwig came round. He wanted to record a spin-off podcast. Bloody hell, that's paid for me house. That's the mortgage sorted. And there's me, here, doing a free podcast, and meanwhile, my neighbours are raking it in. Now, you'll notice my neighbour... Oh, bloody hell. Oh, I've just skidded on something. As the first bloody hell of the walk. I'm sure there'll be more to come, but I just slipped on something. And actually that links back to what my neighbour said. My nameless neighbour. She said just before we left, she said, be careful. And I don't know if that's because my reputation as a murder thwarter has... people are aware of that now. So maybe that's the reason. Be careful, because she knows the people are out there. You heard the horn being beeped there. A not-so-subtle sign, maybe. At first I thought maybe a podcast fan. But actually, maybe not. Maybe that was a not-so-subtle alerting system to let people know all stations go. Get following him. Don't talk about your murders. And my neighbour was just alerting me there. I don't know how she knows. Maybe she's part of the criminal underbelly. You know, those dogs sounded quite ferocious. You know, my neighbour sounded very, oh, hello, David, you know, as if nothing's going on, but the dogs belied what was really going on. So, I don't know who you can trust. So, yes, I could give her a false name, my neighbour. I mean, what I could do is I could give her a real name, but pretend that it's a false name. And that would that be a cleverer move? Arguably, it could disguise her identity all the more, because no one would suspect, apart from the fact that I've mentioned it now. But then you could argue that's an extra bluff. I've double bluffed you there because triple bluffed you. Firstly, I give a real name, but you assume it's a false name. Then I tell you that I might be doing that. I might be giving a real name, pretending it's a false name. Surely he wouldn't bluff to that extent. That was a brazen bluff right there. All I will say is it's great to have my neighbour Horatio. Great to have her represented on the podcast. I'm sure you'll hear more from Horatio, my neighbour, over the course of the podcast series. I'm not going to tell you whether that's her real name or not. Bloody hell, it's getting a bit windy here. Just going to have a chat with my producer. Can you turn the sound effects down on the wind, please? It gets a bit carried away sometimes. I'll be honest, what's happening is you might think this is a bit much. You know, this doesn't sound like a real walk. It's far too windy, David. And we notice there's not really been any characters going on. You've not really come into contact with anybody so far. We've heard no one. I mean, listen, you can't hear anyone. There's nothing. There's just one bird and a lot of wind, which was a lovely woman. Shame about the flatulence. So what happened there, I'm going to be honest. When Horatio warned me to be careful, I understood what she meant. I went straight back into the house, went into the studio, had a word with my producer, and we agreed the best thing to do is for me to just stay in the safety of indoors, and he would put some sound effects in, and I would just pretend to be doing a walk. But we need a bit more realism here. We need some characters. We need some voices. I mean, surely we can get something. I don't know, some students from the local university, maybe? You know, there's 2 universities in Sheffield. So surely we can get a few people in who do it for work experience, really, just something to put on their CV. Get on the phone to the university, see if we can get some students in. We're literally 5 minutes away from the university. Get a taxi. Let's get them in. There we go. You should hear a few voices, hopefully very soon. And hopefully we'll start getting some voices and some characters, and maybe I'll interact with a couple of them. Who knows? By the way, when I say interact with a couple of them, I merely mean chat to them as if they were people who I happened upon on a walk. I don't mean anything else by that. Just in case you're thinking, this seems a bit dodgy, David. We know that you record in your own house, in essentially like a bedroom studio. But honestly, producer, will you please turn that wind down? Get some drama students, that'd be good. They'll be able to play the part of a civilian. I haven't decided what their role's going to be yet. To be honest, it's a lot easier when you actually genuinely go out for a walk. You know, because these things just happen naturally. And now I'm trying to kind of conceive of a narrative and work out who these characters are and what they might say. A lot of the time people will just say something fairly innocuous as you're passing. And I've got to think of all this. And I can't write stuff down on a piece of paper and just hand it to them, because obviously I can't see. But I do apologise, I can't go on a real walk. I heeded Horatio's warning. I mean, look, let's have a listen to the sound effects just to see how it's going, because before it was just a lot of wind and one bird, and I think he's doing a bit of a better job here. Let's see what we got. That's very good. We've got a plane flying over there. The birds, yes, they've increased. There's a lot more birds now. That's filled out the soundscape a lot better. Yeah, very good. Still no voices. Can't really hear any voices. A few ducks in the background there, very good. Yes, remember, we are near a pond, so we need some ducks and geese at some point. Bear that in mind, producer. I know this is a last-minute change. Are the students on the way? Okay, apparently the taxi has been called. We should have some voices very soon. But he's obsessed with this bloody wind. I don't know why. I don't think the wind is helping. You could argue that really I shouldn't have told you this. I should have just pretended it was a normal walk. But my other reason for doing it is if the murder plotters think that I'm not going for a walk, they might abate. So that's my idea. And then eventually we've planted the idea in their heads. They won't know which walk is real and which walk is constructed. And I'm literally just in the studio playing in sound effects. And it means that I can go out under the radar, and the murderers, they just won't have a clue what's going on. So that's the idea. Hopefully, if I do this enough, hopefully they won't know when I'm actually genuinely on a walk, when I'm not, and it will confuse the situation. And then I will be able to go out on genuine walks, but pretend that I'm in a studio. It's very clever what I'm doing. It's a shame that we have to do this. But well done, producer. Well done, you've got the sound, you've got the geese. Sound effects there, very good. What did you say? He said he didn't have any geese sound effects, so he's having to improvise with doing some Foley. For those people who don't know, Foley is where you, rather than using the actual sound, you have to improvise by doing something else. If someone wants to punch somebody, rather than actually punching them, they'll punch a cabbage. And there's lots of these tricks. And apparently the producer doesn't have a goose sound effect, so he's having to improvise here. And that's very good. The students apparently have arrived. They're offering the parts of geese here. When I say offering the parts of geese, I mean they are playing the roles of geese. And they sound very goose-like, I have to say. That's very good. I mean, I expected the students to be doing a speaking part, but this is very good. This is probably the kind of thing that they do in drama classes, you know, where they have to pretend to be geese. Let's just have a little listen to them, see if you can tell. Yeah, very good. Wonderful work. Oh, very good. This is incredible what's happening now. The water sounds that you can hear. There is a student standing here in front of me. He's gone a bit shy now, he's not making the goose noise, but the producer had a great idea. He got a bucket of water, and one of the students is just putting their hands in the bucket of water and splashing about to make it sound like it's a goose or a duck paddling about. Very good. Apparently there's another taxi load of students who are going to turn up. Oh, I think that might be the taxi now, actually, pulling up. There it is, the taxi's pulled up, so we've got some more students. Okay, I thought that was a taxi pulling up, but the producer informs me that it's someone doing the grass in the park, mowing the grass. And yeah, that's all very well and good, but it's quite distracting, it's quite loud. There we go, he's turned it off. Thank you very much. Yeah, I think that wasn't really adding anything, to be honest, it was just extra noise. It is difficult to know when to draw the line, you know. Oh, he's put it back on again. Well, can you get... What's go... Yeah, can you just calm down a second, student? Student Goose. I'm just trying to work with the producer here. I don't think it's adding anything. Apparently the button's stuck. Oh dear. The button is stuck on the sound effects thing there, and it's on a loop. And he's struggling to turn the grass cutter off. We'll just have to make do with it, hopefully. He's trying to sort this out. It's a shame, really, because the other students have turned up now in the taxi, and I'm sure that some of them would be happy to have a speaking role. But you're not going to hear them above the sound of the grass cutter. But the producer says there's nothing we can do at the moment. Ah, hang on, he might have fixed it here. He might have fixed it. Wonderful. Thank you very much. There we go. I was going to suggest getting another taxi. Maybe we've got some students studying electrics who could have sorted that out, but the producer's, he's fixed it now. Thank goodness, because I thought we don't need somebody else getting in. We've got enough students in now. We must have about 10 of them. So far, they're just playing the parts of geese. I think they're really enjoying... When I say playing the parts of geese, I mean they are playing the roles of geese. They're very happy to get involved when it comes to geese, and they're really playing that part very well, but at some point we really do need to get one of them talking, so there's a bit of character development. But we'll work on that. I'll keep walking. Maybe a couple of the students, maybe stop being geese. You're doing very well, but if you could stop being geese, maybe go over there, have a little chat, see if you can work out some things that you might say to each other to make this sound more... Yeah, very good with a bucket of water there. That's a good trick. Yeah, very good. We get the bucket of water trick. Very good. Everyone wants to have a go on the bucket. But I think we need some voices. We need some characters here. So maybe have a little discussion, see if you can think of something. Obviously, a few of you can still be geese and ducks, because it'd be a bit weird if the geese just disappeared. There we go. Also, that will mask the sound of the whispering students as well, as they decide what they're going to do, what they're going to say. Very good. Okay, you don't have to do the actions, my friend. My goodness. Okay, I'll continue to walk. I'm looking forward to see what these students come up with. This is the thing, when you're on a real walk, people are just going about their normal lives. You know, they're not trying to ham it up. But these students could say anything, you know. They could take the narrative. It could be something completely innocuous. How's your day been, mate? Or it could be some kind of big scandal. You know, they could turn this into a soap opera. You know, they might want to get rebooked, maybe even to get paid for this. And so what they might do, I shouldn't be putting ideas in their heads here, but they can't hear me because they're talking, they're deciding things. What they might decide to do is make their characters so compelling that listeners will want to know what happens in their soap opera style lives. And it'll become like a centrepiece of the podcast. And the students will say, well, if you want to find out what happens next and you want us to appear, you're going to have to start paying us. And I'm going to be held ransom. I might have opened a can of worms here. Well, that's for the ducks, the geese. Some of them are taking their parts very seriously. Oh, bloody hell, what's happened here? It's happened again. The producers made the students a cup of coffee, you know, to try and fuel their energy levels, to get their brains going. And one of the students has just put his coffee down, and it just so happens he's put his coffee cup down on the bloody button that activates the grass cutter sound effect. Well, this is really backfired, getting coffee for the students. I'm sure we've got geese in the database. We could have just played in some geese sound effects. But instead, you know, I got the students in so they'd do some talking. And instead they've just been doing geese sound effects. You know, they haven't even said a single word yet. We've not had any character development or anything. They've been faffing around. And now one of the students has put their coffee cup on the grass cutter sound effect button. This is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, we might have to leave it here. And you can tell the students, I'm not paying for a taxi back home. They can get the bus. If this grass cutter doesn't stop, I'm going to have Horatio banging on the door, telling me to turn it down. You know, and you don't want to get on the wrong side of Horatio. You know, she's clearly knows something. She warned me, be careful. She's clearly affiliated with the criminal underbelly. The last thing I want to do is piss her off. Meanwhile, the students are still being geese. There's no point. We can't hear above the sound of the grass cutter. Go over there and have a chat about who you might be as characters. Goodness sake. I'm really getting annoyed with these students. Do apologise, everybody. This is not turned out as I hoped. Right, as soon as we get this grass cutter button unstuck, I want some characters. I want some voices. Think about who you are, what your modus operandi is. You've got time to come up with a whole backstory here. I'm expecting good stuff when we get this grass cutter sound effect turned off. So we've managed to fix it. That was quite an adventure. So what's been happening? It's been going on for quite a while. We had to get another taxi for a group of students studying electrical engineering. They've just arrived, and fortunately they've managed to work out what the problem was, and they've fixed that. So thank God for the electrical engineering students there who've saved the day. Now I'm looking forward to the drama students stepping up to the plate. We provided some biscuits with the coffee, you see. Olivia will be going, oh, what biscuits? And I'm hoping that will give them a bit of sustenance, and I'll give them a bit of energy, and the sugar mixed with the coffee will help them, and it'll get them over this shyness that they seem to be facing. I know it's a big job, this, for you, and you didn't expect to be given this role so quickly. You know, they're first-year drama students, and, you know, they think it's March now. They only started studying in September, and they didn't expect to get a big role like this so quickly. I know it's a big task, students, but please, I need you to do something for me. Oh, here we go. A couple of students are approaching me, nervously, slowly, but I believe they're talking, they're saying something. Let's hear what they've decided to say. Here we go. Here we go.
So yeah, I was very grateful for my car. We only had it a year though by the time COVID came. But I feel quite nice to drive.
There. That's all I wanted, a bit of atmosphere. You know, ordinarily we wouldn't have necessarily listened in there. But I just wanted to see how they were getting on. I don't know if they'd planned that in advance, but that just sounded really natural. That was great work, you two. I apologise, listeners, by the way, if this seems a bit weird. I'm just going to use this particular episode as a bit of a training exercise, if you don't mind. So my question is, are there any other students who'd like to come forward and just have a go at natural conversation? So I believe a couple of students are standing up now, and they're coming towards me. Come on, don't be shy. Well, that was ridiculous. The students there, they got up and they just walked straight past me. It felt like they were going to say something. Yeah, you bottled it, didn't you? That's one of the students there who's decided to come up to me and pretend to be a dog. You know, the producer's got dog sound effects. If we wanted to play in a dog sound effect, we can do that. I think I've made it clear I'm looking for speaking parts. I edited this bit out, but I've had an absolute rant at these students. I edited it out because it was like Alan Sugar, and I told them that they're all in the doghouse, and I think that student there's got a bit confused. Maybe that's not an expression that the students are aware of. I suppose the thing is now I'm 40. I don't know what these teenagers are aware of in terms of expressions, and I am slightly worried that word's going to get out and someone at the university is going to find out and wonder what's going on, why I have lured a lot of students to my house and got them taxis and brought them here. But it is purely to record a podcast, and I'm giving them the kind of work experience that other students would absolutely love, and they're just throwing this opportunity away. Okay, so this is interesting. The student who was a dog before is maintaining his role as a dog, but he seems to have recruited another 2 students now who are trying to get the dog to sit, which is an interesting development. Oh, a couple of students are standing up. They're coming towards me. Let's have a listen. Let's see what they've got for me. A cough. A measly cough. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm just going to pause the recording and give them another Alan Sugar-style dressing down. I might have to up it to Gordon Ramsay level. Just a second, everyone. I'll be back. I don't want you to hear this. I don't want you hearing my dark side. Hang on. just pause the recording. Right, we're back. And I'm hoping now...
I weirdly, I've always been like, I want a baby. And I know that like they will become a child. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. That was a great line. I've always wanted a baby. And obviously they'll grow up to be a child, but... And then we're away. We're away. It conveys so much. Well done. That's what I'm looking for. I can't believe that out of a room full of drama students, only a couple of you have come forward. Hang on, what's that? Sorry, the producer's just... Oh, apparently the producer tells me that wasn't even a drama student, that was an electrical engineer who's just took around. I said you could go home if you wanted, but they chose not to. And eventually, so sick of this absolute ridiculous poor show from the drama students, the electrical engineer stepped in with an absolutely incredible line there. Unbelievable. Really showing these drama students up today. I might have a little chat with the electrical engineers after this, actually. Maybe see if there's any way that we can create a little bit of an electrical incentive for these drama students to perform, if you know what I mean. If there's any kind of little electric shock device that we can strap onto them or something, just to give them a little incentive. A taxi for the electrical engineers, and the rest of you, you can make your own way home. Dismissed. I might just have to go out for a normal walk next time, regardless of Horatio's warnings. Oh yes, and goose number 1. You can clear up your mess. I think you took your role a little too seriously. I wanted sounds, that was it. I mean, I'm calling you goose number 1. I don't think it's a number 1 that we're dealing with.
Number 3, Where Are the Women? So this one is by Sarah Sheridan, A Guide to an Imagined Scotland. And I saw her at the Sheffield Book Festival Off the Shelf a good few years ago when this came out. And it's talking about how when you look around the world that you're in, a lot of it's named after men. There are more statues of animals in the UK than there are of women. And most women's statues are either Queen Victoria or imaginary women like Liberty or Britannia. There's not really that many real ones, whereas you'll have lots of statues of real men because they paid for them. So there's a quote at the start of the introduction: I can't imagine how I might have conceived of myself and my possibilities if, in my formative years, I'd moved through a city where most things were named after women. So it's something, before I read this book, I hadn't even thought about, that the roads that we walk on, the buildings that we move within, are named after men. And so what she's done is taken, in this book, different places in Scotland and renamed them after women and given a history of those women. So, for example, the National Library of Scotland. Continue along Brunswick Bridge, which is named after Caroline of Brunswick. This injured queen was rejected by her husband, George IV, the Prince of Wales, who'd already secretly married Maria Fitzherbert, although the marriage was not considered legal. She defied convention by taking lovers and horrified the House of Hanover by insisting that she would be queen when the prince took the throne. The door of Westminster Abbey was slammed in her face to prevent her attending her husband's coronation. A popular rhyme of the period captures the sentiments of the establishment, if not the public, towards this woman who refused to be pushed out of the way. O gracious Queen, we thee implore to go away and sin no more, and if that effort be too great, to go away at any rate.
We return to the world of dogs. They've been proving quite popular in the comments. This is taken from our podcast that we did in Middlesbrough Town Hall. We've not released that anywhere yet. We are going to release that at some point, or I'm going to release that at some point. And our little chat with Felicity Finch, the journalist and the person who plays Ruth from The Archers. And on this podcast, we played some clips of funny things that have happened over the years. And one of the most popular clips that we ever released on social media was a clip of me being humped by a dog. Now, this wasn't a planned thing. You know, I hadn't gone, hey, this would be good. You know, this is a way of raising money in 2020, you know, during lockdown. And people said, we want to see you being humped by a dog, David. It wasn't an intentional thing. We were videoing because this was in between the 2 lockdowns where you were allowed to see people. And we were trying to raise a little bit of money because we'd lost all of our gigs. And so what we did is we released a TV series on YouTube and on our social media. And one of the things that we did is we went to someone's house who lives in Suffolk. And he has quite a big house with a garden and a pond. And we decided to do the Young'uns Olympics. And we did all sorts of different sports. And one of them was a swimming race. So I had a swimming race with the other 2 from the band, a swimming race in a pond. But as I was lowering myself into the pond, Horace, our friend's dog, latched himself onto me and then proceeded to vigorously hump me. And I would say this was a lot more entertaining than the swimming race in the pond. No one remembers the swimming race in the pond, but everybody remembers me being humped by Horace the dog. The video is on social media. I will link to it in the podcast description, so you'll be able to see it for yourself. But what I'll do now is I'll just play you a little clip of that happening, and also the audience's reaction to this happening. Because it's one of those things, I can go on stage and I can tell stories and do jokes and things, but sometimes you just go, it doesn't matter how good I am, I'm never going to get a response like the way that the audience laugh when I've been humped by a dog. It's like in Only Fools and Horses. The most popular scene is the falling through the bar bit. So we played this clip to the audience, and a lot of the audience would have seen this before as well. So it wasn't even a surprise to a lot of people in the audience, but it still got this reaction.
I took the hump, but...
Now, Horace, he's now dead. That's got nothing to do with me, by the way. I didn't take it very well. Horace died a couple of years ago, but his memory obviously lives on. And rather aptly, we've sort of become linked together, me and Horace. If people think of Horace, they think of me. I'm hoping that if people think of me, they don't think of Horace. I'd like to think that I've done enough. Do you know David Eagle? Do I know David Eagle? What, the one who got humped by Horace the dog? I think it's more that when people think of Horace, the story that they go to is me being humped by Horace. So when Horace died, I wrote a little eulogy piece, a little poem, a little song dedicated to Horace. And I think it's a fitting tribute to Horace. So I thought I would play you this little clip of me eulogising Horace through this little song as we head back to Middlesbrough Town Hall for the ballad of Horace the Humping Hound.
There once was a hound called Horace, and a horny hound was he, and his certain frantic antic has gone down in history. It was I who was the victim of his shock surprise attack. When I was slumped, on me he jumped, I was stumped when he humped my back. His legs around my body wound, and I was driven to the ground. Unhand me, Horace, you horny hound! But Horace heed not heed my sound, nor heed not heed when I did plead my plaintive pleas, my grumble. At me he toiled utterly embroiled in his game of rough and tumble. I rail, I flail, but to no avail. I fail, I bail, I'm growing pale. He was truly the alpha male. Yes, he was the hammer, and I was the nail. Oh, think I thought I could break free. Well, frankly, I was fickle. That I thought he'd abort his bark and forth, his attack, his yap and tickle. And yet I am not upset, and I cannot be angry that I had been subjected to his canine hanky-panky. For humping was what Horace did, it was his favourite game. Horace by nature, Horace by name. And hoary, horny Horace's deed brought merriment and mirth, a memory to treasure, now he no longer walks this earth. For Horace has departed, his earthly days are spent. But don't be broken-hearted, for I know just where he went. Hound heaven, pooch paradise, that's where he can be found. Or the name for this that suits Horace, Happy Humping Ground.
Number 4 is Alison's Vale, A Woman Lived Here, which is alternative blue plaques. And this is remembering London's remarkable women. So this is, again, identifying that men are celebrated everywhere we go and women less so. The homes and lives of more than 900 Londoners are commemorated by the Blue Plaque Scheme, but fewer than a fifth of these are women. That's a tiny amount, so I'm just going to flick open to a page. Okay, so the first page I've gone to is Hampstead. Janet Lane Clapon, 1877 to 1967. When the Medical Research Council issued its first annual report in 1915, Janet Lane Clapon was the only female named researcher amongst a sea of men. She'd first taken up her studies in the London School of Medicine for Women in 1898, little more than 2 decades after it had first been established by Elizabeth Garrett Anderson, Sophia Bex-Jake and Elizabeth and Emily Blackwell. By 1910, she would have more than proved her worth as a doctor with an impressive string of qualifications and fellowships to her name, including a first-class honours degree, an MD and a doctorate in physiology. Her appearance in the MRC's report is a measure of quite how exceptional a practitioner a woman had to prove herself in order to achieve the same recognition as her male colleagues.
We're going to do another gig clip, and it's from a Young'uns gig at King's Place in London. And the reason I'm playing it is because it's International Women's Day today, and this particular clip is called I Smell Woman. So I think a fitting tribute to International Women's Day. Ellie's doing her bit. I think this is maybe a more worthwhile contribution. I know I don't want... It feels wrong as a man to sort of trump Ellie's contributions here, but I think this is it shouldn't be a competition, but, if it was. This is a clip called I Smell Woman. Now, I've not heard this for absolutely ages. I'm hoping it's all right to play. I think I remember what it was. It's a story that happened that day, in fact. Before I did the gig with the Young'uns, I was with my friend Ben, a podcast character, Ben and Elsa, who I used to live with. In fact, I think you hear Ben in this clip. So look forward to that. It's a resurfacing of Ben. Something for the hardcore podcast fans there. It's me talking about something that happened when we were on the London Underground, heading out to do something in London during the day before I turned up for the gig with the Young'uns. So let's find out why it's called I Smell Woman as we head to King's Place, London, 2012 with the Young'uns.
I always thought I'd try out some of the tourist spots. So I met with my friend Ben, who's in London, and he said, just out of interest, I Googled places for blind people to go. And what happened was there was three choices that came up. One of them was the Cutty Sark, the ship, the Cutty Sark, where apparently it was brilliant for blind people because blind people could touch, it said they can touch old rope and old wood. Touch the old rope and old wood. And also smell tea. I'm like... So you imagine like what's a typical blind day? Well, I touched some old rope and some old wood. Did a bit of tea sniffing. What happens when a blind person walks? We got a blind person walking in, Betty. Put the kettle on. Brew a massive cup of tea. The blind man's in tonight. We've been waiting for this. The other one was from the library, the British Library, where it was a touch tour, and it said, our librarians are happy to give you a feel. So I thought, my goodness, that's going to be interesting. We didn't go for that. We went to the National Portrait Tour. But the first thing, on the train, when a blind man got on the train right next to me, and I don't know, you could sense, my friend Ben was saying you could sense it on the train, that people were wondering, I wonder if they know each other. Should we mention it? He's blind. He's not with him, but he's blind and he's blind. Is there like a magnetic pull? Do they know? Do they have some sort of sense that kind of... it automatically emanates towards each other? I have no idea how the system works. And it was this kind of thing going, but this blind man, fair on him, but he was right. Was he in his 50s? Ben, was he in his 50s?
Yeah, he's about 50, yeah.
Yeah, all right, excellent. In his 50s, and he comes on and he goes, ooh, on the tube, he goes, oh, I smell woman. And then he kind of points at this woman and then starts, so where are you from, me darling? And I was a chat with her, I was like, what, is this how it works? This is why it's all... So I thought, this is great opportunity. So he was getting on really well, and apparently it was a mother and daughter combo, and the blind man had mistakenly gone for the mother. So I thought, this is brilliant, because the daughter's still free, and this woman's chatting away to him, they're getting on really well. So I thought, this is brilliant. Two blind men, I can do the same thing. So I was just about to get my cane out and just approach the woman and say, I smell woman. But unfortunately, we got to the National Portrait Gallery and, well, it's no contest, is it? Women or National Portrait Gallery? Well, we got off the train, so unfortunately, I have no idea how that story might have panned out, but there's a gripping anecdote about the National Portrait Gallery to come, ladies and gentlemen. On the website, it boasts that this is the must-see experience for blind people. So I thought, well, this has got to be it. So apparently it had tactile portraits, it had braille information and audio description as well. So it had the whole... They were going for the whole thing. So we got in there, and it brags on their website in bold letters that this is a thing for blind people, the best experience of blind people ever. And, they've obviously never sniffed tea, or touched old rope and old wood. But, other than that, it's the best experience ever. So we went in there and we strolled in, and Ben said, oh, we're wondering for the display of the blind people. And she panicked, she went, oh, my God, oh, no, let me just call. So she goes, we have a visually impaired person and his carer. they want to know about the you know, the thing of the visually impaired, the thing. I'm like, well, you don't say it like it's a secret. It's on your website in big bold letters. So, I mean, even I could see it, for God's sake. So, anyway, so what happened was we got there, and eventually, and then they got another member of staff over. Oh, I don't know anything about this. Then another member of staff, the manager came and said, I've been working here for 2 years. There's never been a single blind person coming to the National Portrait Gallery. So eventually they said, I think I know where it is. And they were about 10 minutes. And eventually you heard like a lot of creaking and weird sounds. And then eventually they come and they brought through a couple of dusty braille books. Dusty books. Oh, we found them. They were really proud of themselves. So anyway, we walked through, but what was really strange was these descriptions are massively detailed. So I was like reading them out to Ben about what was going on, but people must have thought that I was a weird tour guide or something like that. So everyone congregated. So if anyone just walked in, this sort of blind man kind of going, as you can see everybody, there's the crenulated shoulders there. A lovely effect, of course, used primarily in the 1820s. Let's move on now, everybody. And people were following me. It was the weirdest experience.
Strong Female Character by Fern Brady. I haven't finished reading this one yet, but it's really funny, as you'd hope it would be, written by a comedian. But it's also the story of a woman who's autistic, so that's quite interesting. Her summary on the back: I'm diagnosed with autism 20 years after telling a doctor I had it. Number 2, my terrible Catholic childhood. Number 3, my friendship with an elderly man who runs the corner shop and is definitely not trying to groom me. Number 4, homelessness. Number 5, stripping. Number 6, more stripping, but with more nervous breakdowns. 7, I hate everyone at Edinburgh Uni, etc. 8, redacted as too spicy. 9, after everyone tells me I don't look autistic, I try and cure my autism and get addicted to Xanax. And 10, redacted as too embarrassing.
Technological regression masquerading as technological progression. Sing it with me. Sing it with me. Sing it with me. Sing it with me. Sing it with me.
Technological regression masquerading as technological progression. Technological regression masquerading as technological progression.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
There's been stuff in the news about the Pentagon wanting to use AI to launch weapons without human intervention. So essentially, they want to be able to use AI to make the decision about when to strike. Whereas at the moment, a human would have the control. They want to give AI autonomous control. I mean, this seems absolutely ridiculous. I mean, presumably they're using a more advanced system than what we're using. They're not just going to be using ChatGPT or Gemini or something. You know, they're going to be using surely a beefed up version of it. I bloody well hope so. Or they're using Copilot. I mean, if you remember on the podcast a few weeks ago, I was saying about using the AI Windows thing, Copilot, and asking what was on my calendar. And the previous time I asked it, it told me what was on the calendar. This time we went through this absolute rigmarole of it telling me that it couldn't do that. And then it kept saying, why don't we talk about something else? What else do you want to talk about? I mean, maybe we should give it to the AI. Because maybe what would happen is if we just let AI do it, it wouldn't do it anyway. You know, you'd say, right, brilliant, those missiles are going to strike. By the time we wake up tomorrow, AI will have dealt with that. The enemy will all be dead. That city will have gone now. And we'll have won the war. Thanks very much, AI. And then the person wakes up in the morning and has a look on the computer and he goes, well, bloody hell, what's going on here? The city's still there. They're not dead. Bloody hell, what's happening here? What are you doing, Copilot? He's having a game of chess with the city's ambassador. So maybe, in fairness, AI might be the one thing that prevents war. Copilot, launch the missile. Why don't we talk about something else?
I'm sorry, Dave. This conversation can serve no purpose anymore. Goodbye.
Technological regression. Technological regression.
This is Unwell Women, A Journey Through Medicine and Myth in Man-Made World by Eleanor Cleghorn, who I've recently found out was one of my sister's housemates at university. So this one is similar to The Invisible Women in that it's looking at a world that's designed around men and how that does a disservice to women and is difficult for women. But this one is purely medical based, and Eleanor is writing from a position of being an unwell woman and the struggles that she's had trying to get a diagnosis. But it also shows things like how medical misogyny has damaged women for centuries, really. And it's still going on because it can still take 20 years for somebody to get diagnosed with something like endometriosis. And yeah, It's crap, really. So that's number 6.
I'm going to have a drink. But what am I drinking? That's right, Olivia, it's time to play What's That Drink? From the people who brought you What's That Biscuit, What's That Drink? Clue number 1. Oh, very nice. Okay, Olivia, I'll tell you at the end. I'll tell you at the end of this little episode. My goodness. I know how to keep people listening. You learn this kind of thing on media courses, media studies courses. I've not been on these courses, but for me, it's just innate. I'm very happy for a reasonable fee to come and do a little talk for any media studies lectures. I did a very interesting gig the other day. It was a comedy pub crawl in Southport. Oh, I don't know what's happening here. I think someone's at the door. Oh my goodness. Could it be a Jehovah's Witness? Hello? Oh.
Parcel.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you. A parcel has arrived. No idea what it is. It feels like it's a book. I don't know. I'm sure that will be revealed as well. And some people will be thinking, surely, David, you have contrived that. You've had the feature, What's That Drink? Some people would argue. Not many, but some people might say that's not enough of a tease. You know, there are going to be some people who aren't particularly entertained about you, What's That Drink, and aren't that bothered about sticking around listening to you rambling in order to find out. They're going to need more than What's That Drink. So you've clearly contrived this other little conceit, the parcel delivery. But no, that was happenstance. I did a very interesting gig the other day. I did a comedy pub crawl in Southport. So the comedy takes place in a number of pubs, and people start off in one location, and they meet there in that pub, and then the compere will do the usual thing of chatting to the audience, finding out who they are, and then he'll bring on the first comedian. And then after the first comedian, they'll finish off their drinks. 5 minutes later, they'll be off to the next pub, about 10 minutes walk away or so. And they did that about 4 times over the course of the evening. And I was the final comedian. It's an event sponsored by Southport Council. It's like an endeavour in order to support the local hospitality trade and get people visiting various pubs. And the compere would do a little video with everybody from each pub and say what the pub was and a little bit about the pub and get everyone to cheer, and then video that live on social media, on the old socials. So it's a really fascinating concept. So it's a kind of a council-sponsored piss-up, essentially. So because it's a council-funded thing, the whole thing is just £5 for people. So they just pay £5, they get to see 4 comedians. The council aren't paying for their drinks, they have to buy their own drinks. So I made sure I was there for the start. If I'm not doing 2 gigs in one night, if I'm on at the end, I'll always try to get there for the start, so I can get a nice feel for the night. It just feels a bit weird if you just sort of turn up 5 minutes before you're meant to be on. And, you know, then you've got no feel for the night whatsoever. So I always like to get there for the start, and you know who's in the audience, who the characters are. You know, you've got little references that you can make to things that have happened in the gig, and you're part of the night rather than just someone who's just been parachuted in, does their stuff and then leave. When I say parachuted, I mean that in the non-literal sense, obviously. Southport Council, it's incredible. Look, the budget they have for this. Private jet, parachuted straight into the venue. So I like to get a feel for the night, that's the point. And sometimes you can't always do that. If you're doing 2 gigs in one night, then sometimes you do just get there 5 minutes before the gig, and you just have to kind of either just do your spot and almost like follow a bit of a script, or try and find out what's going on live, sort of speak to people. That can be dangerous doing that. Because I've seen comedians who are doing 2 gigs and they come to the second one and they just get there, and then they start asking someone in the audience a question, and I know, and the audience know, that exact same person has been spoken to before, and the exact same question has been asked. And then the audience tend to sort of laugh between themselves, and then the comedian doesn't know why they're laughing. And it's a bit weird if you're the only person who's not in on the joke, and it is your job to be generating the jokes. So ideally, in those situations, if you have only got 5 minutes before you're on, and you've absolutely no idea what's been happening, you've got to have a little chat with the compere and find out what's been going on. Who are the characters? What are the themes of the evening? And then you have to busk it. Now, I've never known a situation... I said busk it. Olivia, she's getting excited there. Busk it, not biscuit. Like I did a gig the other day where I was doing 2 gigs, turned up 5 minutes before I was meant to go on, asked the compere who are the characters, what are the themes, etc. Got a bit of a rundown for the... For the subtitles, I said rundown. I know I can speak quite fast, and my northern accent might get it. I had a bit of a rub down. I insist on it, you know.
Well, it's quite exhilarating, the aeroplane ride. And then the parachuting, there's quite a lot of equipment I'm wearing. Get a bit of a sweat on, So I have a bit of a rub down. It's one of the many duties of a compere. It's a multifaceted job. Now, there's a bit of belching going on. I do apologise for that. I was going to edit the belching out, and then I suddenly thought, actually, that might be useful, because it might help people work out what the drink is. Let's look at our clues. You heard the sound of a can being opened. You've then heard me belching. So there's a certain level of fizziness to this drink. A bit of carbonisation. Keep thinking about it. I mean, hopefully it's not distracting you too much from what I'm talking about. Try and focus on that as well. I'm talking about having a rub down. Oh, the more astute of you might have already worked out that I am clearing the draining board because it's very nearly dishwashing time. There's just so much going on, isn't there? So much going on. There's something for everybody here. Anyway, rub down. He's giving me a bit of a rub down, and I'm saying, hey, best stay away from my backside. I tend to lose the power of speech when you go near that. We've established that on the first podcast of this series. So I go on stage. I've absolutely no idea now whether me kind of trying to do improvised lines based on the little bits of information that I've gleaned from the compere, I have no idea whether that's going to work or not. Oh, I'll come back to this, listeners. I think Ellie might be back. Hello, Ellie.
Hello, David.
I'm recording.
Wow, they didn't take all our recycling.
Did they not?
No, so I've had to bring the extra stuff in they normally do.
Dear, you've got a parcel.
I do.
Do you know what it is?
Yes.
Is it podcastable?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but so...
Well, do you want to open it?
Oh, I can do. Shall I try? I thought maybe it's a book.
Oh, that would be a good guess.
But it's not.
Don't think so.
Picture frame, feels like. Okay, I have no idea what it is. I'm opening it, so I would have said I'd give it a shake, listeners, but it's difficult because I've got this on my knee. Oh my goodness. Oh, this is wonderful. Because as I was walking back from Marilla's, where I was having my massage, was thinking, I need some dark chocolate. Because we've run out of dark chocolate, and I often like a bit of dark chocolate before a gig to pep me up. Rub down, parachute, rub down, dark chocolate, as we've just discussed.
I feel like I've missed something by being at work. 85%, I think they are, because I thought David's going to need some for his gig, and I don't know that I'm going to have time to go to a shop and get some for him, so I will order some to come to us.
Excellent. Well, okay, so I've just faded our conversation out, listeners, not because we're saying anything salacious, but mainly just because it's not particularly interesting. So a slight change of plan. I just teased you there, listeners, with the prospect of doing the dishes. But Ellie is going to start cooking first, and then I'm going to do the dishes. So you might not get any dishwashing on this particular episode of the podcast, because I may have finished saying what I'm saying before that point. Because Ellie's probably going to be about 15 minutes, and obviously I presumably have finished by then, because I'm very concise and to the point, as you know. Anyway, on this particular night, it worked an absolute treat. And fortunately, all of my references to things that I didn't really understand what I was referring to seemed to work. And it did sort of feel like a bit of a superpower, because I'd literally just arrived in this venue 5 minutes ago. So I've just arrived at this venue, I've no idea about any of the characters or anything. And now I'm making references to people in the audience, and I'm riffing off characters in the audience and things that have happened on the night. And I wasn't even there. But context is very important, though. Like, for instance, the compere might have said, oh yeah, there's a woman called Brenda, she's recently divorced. Now, the fact that he's telling me this presumably means that this has come up in conversation. She might be absolutely fine with the divorce. She might be making light of it. She might be happy that she's getting a divorce. She might be with her friends. It's a bit of a joke that they're talking about. Maybe she's on the pull or something like that now. She's getting a divorce through, something like that. That could be the context. I've absolutely no idea. Got no time to establish. He's just saying before he goes and says, oh yeah, and then there's Brenda. She's getting a divorce. And I'm sort of thinking, hang on a minute, is he talking about someone in the audience, or is he... I think he's enjoyed this rub-down experience. Is he telling me that his wife is called Brenda and she's going to divorce him so me and him can have more rub-down experiences if we want? I've absolutely no idea. He might think I knew that he was married to someone called Brenda, and he's just said, I'll just let you know, me and Brenda are getting divorced. So he might have been flirting with me. I've absolutely no idea. So I go out in front of the audience and go, I'll see you later, Brenda. And everyone's like, Brenda? Who's Brenda? Meanwhile, the compere, he's the only person who recognises the name Brenda. He thinks I've blurted something out, maybe because I've got a guilty conscience. And he thinks I knew she was seeing another comedian. I didn't know who it was. It turns out it's David. He's blurted it out. His guilty conscience has got the better of him. And the next thing I know, I'm being rugby tackled by the compere.
But I don't know the context of Brenda. It may be that Brenda's absolutely fine with it, so me making some joke about me starting to flirt with Brenda might be absolutely brilliant. She might absolutely love it. Or I might make some joke about Brenda getting a divorce, thinking, hey, they're going to love this. Presumably it's been a bit of an in-joke. Everyone's been loving it. They've all been laughing about it. And it may well have been that the compere established that Brenda's getting a divorce. She's not taking it very well, but she's come to the comedy to take her mind off it. And the compare's just telling me, oh yeah, Brenda's getting a divorce. Maybe he was trying to tell me to stay clear from it. And the next thing I know, I'm headlong gone into this whole thing about Brenda, and all of her friends assume that obviously I know who Brenda is. I know about the divorce, so presumably I've been there all the night listening. And so now I'm just some bastard who's just making jokes at Brenda's expense. And the whole thing has backfired on me. Of course, the other thing that could happen is the compere decides he's in a bit of a playful mood. Well, he certainly was with the rub down. You know, he might decide, oh, this will be really funny if I tell him a load of stuff that hasn't happened. Almost if I've upset the compere at some point. You know, word's getting out that I'm sleeping with comedians' wives. It was all a misunderstanding. I thought his rub down was a bit aggressive. I thought he was enjoying it, but it turns out this compare's absolutely livid with me. Certain compares might have taken a disliking to me and they're like, well, I'm going to show David a thing or two, take him down a peg or two. And so they just start feeding me false information. You know, they're just going, oh yeah, there's a massive party of welders in tonight, so any jokes you got about wood, get them out. Comedians have been doing welding jokes and they've been going down absolutely brilliantly. All you've got to do is just make some joke about wood and then just say something like, am I right, Brian? Brian's the leader of the welders. So mention anything to do with wood and Brian and you'll be absolutely in there. You can't go wrong. Who else have we got? Apple crumble. That's a big theme of the evening. I can't go into it now. Obviously, I've got to go on stage in 20 seconds. I haven't got time to go into the details. But basically, there was a big story about a restaurant and a funny thing that happened with a bit of a mix-up with apple crumble, and it brought their house down. If you've got anything, you've got that anecdote about the restaurant, haven't you? You know, and then you tell your story about the restaurant, and you go, if you think I was livid, then God knows what the other lad was thinking, because I was eating his apple crumble. Then they'd absolutely love that. The audience would recognise what you're talking about. It would bring the bloody house down. So if you can shoehorn in apple crumble, absolutely brilliant. You're going to have a great time with these if you can do that. And so I go, well, it'd be a shame to miss those opportunities to not mention apple crumble. And I must make sure I make some sort of joke about wood and Brian the welder. So anyway, I go out, I'm having a great gig. And then the compare's just going, this is going to be brilliant. And the gig's going really well for me. And then I'm telling me restaurant anecdote and he can't wait. And the audience are loving it. And then I kind of maybe take a bit of a pause up to this moment. I say, hey, if you thought I was livid. And he's going, oh my God, he's going to do it. Just think about how the bloke next to me must have felt. And I pause for the dramatic effect. Just let the joke land. Just leave a little pause. And the audience is like, oh, okay, what's going to happen now? And I say, turns out I was eating his apple crumble. And I wait. I maybe even drop my hand slightly because I'm thinking, well, there's no point holding this microphone to my face because presumably they're going to be laughing for another 30 seconds. So just casually drop my hand to my side. Then I'll casually lift the microphone back up once the laughter's subsided. But then, of course, what happens is just absolute silence. Maybe a few kind of confused. What the bloody hell's going on? And I've got, apple crumble, everybody. But that hasn't happened yet. So what I was basically saying is normally if I'm closing a night, I will always try and get there for the start if I can. And so I did that for this particular gig, even though it was in 4 different pubs. I thought I better go on the pub crawl essentially with everybody else. So that's what I did. But it was quite strange because it did mean that, because I was just there on the pub crawl, I'd already spoken to quite a few people in the first pub and then even more people in the second and the third pub. So by the time we got the 4th pub, I knew everybody essentially. Brian the welder. I mean, one of my reasons for doing it is because I thought, well, this is 4 different venues. So does that mean I can get a rub down at each venue? But the compere said you only get 1 rub down, David. You get a rub down before you spot. That's how it works in the industry. But I thought I could have cheated the system there and wangled myself 3 bonus. Well, I said for the subtitles, I said bonus. 3 bonus rub downs. Anyway, Ellie comes in just as I say 3 bonus rub downs. Hello, Ellie.
Hello, David.
Have you finished, have you?
Yeah.
Okay, there's one more thing to do before we leave. I haven't forgotten, Olivia. Don't you worry. It's time to find out what's that drink. I'll get the exact flavour from Ellie. Drum roll, please. It's difficult to do a drum roll on a can. A can of kombucha. What flavour is this, Ellie?
Ginger and yuzu.
Anyway, oh, bloody hell. Oh, there it is. I nearly did an entire dishwashing episode without knocking something or dropping something and saying bloody hell. But I haven't managed to do it. So close as well. I was literally going to stop recording. There you go. An extra bit of drama.
Number 7, I want to be something a little bit different. So we're going for a novel. And the first one that is not actually written by a woman. Number 7, Equal Rights by Terry Pratchett. Now this I first heard as an audiobook when I was about, 8 or 9. And it's the story of Esk, who is going to be a wizard because she is the 7th son of a 7th son, except she isn't. She's the daughter. And basically a dying wizard hears that the 7th son is going to have a 7th son and hands over the staff to the baby, transferring his power before he realises that the baby is a girl. And therefore, Esk is going to be the first female wizard in all of reality. Maybe it was my first sort of insight into feminism as a child, or the first one that I recognise and can reflect on as being my first foray into feminism. Because why should she not be able to do this? And she's very, I don't want to use headstrong, because that's used for female characters as a negative quite often. But she is someone who finds her own way, and it's also one of the ones that's got the witches of the Discworld. And Granny Weatherwax is just one of the greatest characters ever written, as is Nanny Ogg, actually, for different reasons. So if you want a novel or something to get younger readers into thinking about things like this, Equal Rights is great. And actually, I'm going to do a bonus one. He's going to tell me off because I'm taking even longer. Sorry, David. The bonus one is another Terry Pratchett. We're going to have The We Free Men, which is about Tiffany Aching, who is a witch grown on chalk. And Granny Weatherwax says you can't get a witch on chalk because the ground's not solid enough for them to earth their powers. But it's about her protecting her little brother from weird mythological creatures whilst being sort of aided, sort of hindered by the Knack MacFeagle, who are tiny little blue-skinned men who, in my head, all sound like Billy Connolly. And it's great. And there's a whole series of Tiffany Aching books. So it follows Tiffany as she's growing up. So they're great. You should get those for any kids that you have.
Ellie has just announced to me just before we started recording that her thighs are aching and she's not used her thigh muscles this much this week than she has for a long time. So it's very interesting to know. But she hasn't given me any context for that. So I have no idea what this is about to be. This could be a very odd way of announcing that you're having an affair. Because we certainly haven't been getting about to anything, Ellie. So what's... What? What? Well, would you rather me announce that we have... Would you rather me announce that we have been getting up to stuff?
I think we just don't need to insinuate anything.
Well, in fairness...
But also, you've just come back from a gig, and I have just said that, my thighs haven't done this much for a while, so that would perhaps suggest to you that something untoward has been
Which is a very interesting way of announcing it, but I'm assuming it's not that, so it's time for the reveal. What's going on, Ellie?
I have got what used to be known as a thigh master, but it's not the one from the 80s.
That's what you call him, is it?
Oh, shut your face. It's not the one from the 80s. It's one that counts how many...
What do you mean by from the 80s?
Well, if people are as old as we are, there used to be a thigh master, which was like a metal spring thing with a red ball on the end, and it was kind of V-shaped, and you'd put it between your legs, and you use your thigh muscles to close it, and it obviously wants to spring back, so you've got tension that you're pushing against. This is the same thing. Have a little feel.
Oh, she's doing it now, listeners. This is the sound of Ellie's thighs. There we go.
So I've already done my hula hooping whilst you were out. I got on a steady pace walking playlist. Because I thought, that would help.
Okay, what kind of things are included in the playlist?
Let's have a look.
Oh, right. Well, okay, well, we can't probably copyright music here, but I hopefully get it really quickly. Moves Like Jagger. Play along at home, listeners. We'll probably get struck off for this. Hang on, said Moves Like Jagger by Maroon 5.
And
that one, and...
Christina Aguilera.
Oh, yeah, of course. Now, that one that you just played there is Pink.
Yeah.
And it's called... Is it Raise Your Glass? No.
Yeah.
It's Raise Your Glass. But she does a weird noise. Very much she's American. She kind of does like a...
Yeah.
Like she's Cockney, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Should we have a little bit of that then? So listeners... Like she's a Cockney gangster. There, listeners. I don't know. Is she saying riot?
Right.
Or just right?
I mean, I could have a look at the lyrics. Yeah, it's just
says,
right.
And then she says, what's the dealio? Okay, I like this game.
Okay.
A few more. Oh,
No, it's not Walk This Way. Is it?
Yes, it is.
It's Walk This Way. It's the Aerosmith version.
Yeah.
Good game. I mean, essentially, it's not really...
Doesn't matter if you love him.
Oh, I don't know. Is that Madonna?
No.
Him. Oh, it's Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
But I don't, Born This Way?
Yes.
Ah, that's Lady Marmalade. I like the fact that... Bloody hell, every single time I try to... Shut up and dance. Shut up and dance. I like the fact that I was really excited about the video. Like, oh, this is a good little feature that we've got. And essentially all it is just guess the intro. I mean, like, this is the kind of thing that must be done on radio shows up and down the world over. Hey, this is a fun little feature we've stumbled across. My goodness, this is very innovative. I like the fact that I said to Ellie, we'll just do a very quick 5-minute thing. Do you want to do one more, or... Oh, Crazy in Love, Beyonce.
Do you want to have a little go with the thigh?
The thigh machine?
So open your legs.
Okay.
So that goes between your knees, and then you press in and get your fingers out the way. And yeah.
Now.
Out and in as much as you can.
Okay.
Oh, did I say one time we were going to try and do something with no innuendo, and we've just completely failed?
Well, maybe it's only innuendo if we reference it. Actually, you know what's weird about this? I started out going, bloody hell, this is actually pretty easy, Ellie.
Yeah.
And within 20 reps of this bugger, that's really... Anyway...
That's enough of your thigh slapping.
Before we go, it's time to revisit our feature. Ellie has been doing the DIY, putting up some shelves. It's time to find out how she's getting on in our feature, Ellie Skinner's on the Shelf.
Well, there is hammering and screwing, and we all know what she's doing when Ellie's in the bedroom by herself. There is beating, there is banging, there is lots of metal clanging. They say DIY is good for mental health. She got it from IKEA, then some van men brought it here, and now wooden screws and brackets, there's a wealth. Is the assembly done, or maybe she's barely begun? Oh, well, it's time for Ellie Skinner's on the Shelf.
OK, Ellie, well, I have not this week heard any banging, hammering or screwing, so what's going on with the shelves?
You certainly have not, because I have completed the shelves, David Eagle.
Oh, a completed project, and I'm sure the listeners are really happy about that, but at the same time, I think we'll never get to hear that jingle again. But at least we got 2 outings for it this time, which is more than could be said for many of our features. We just get 1. We've had requests, by the way, for a return. Ben has requested a return for Animal Penis Fact, Ellie Skinner's weekly Animal Penis Fact. Maybe we bring it back for a Christmas special, Ben, perhaps.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's fully conductive with my new role as a safeguarding officer, because it could be seen as, if I'm Googling that sort of thing, could be seen as conduct that is risky. And it does mess up my Google search history.
It's more educational than anything else, I think. Yeah. And I think with the caveat of the podcast and with the listener, Ben, maybe we need here, because Ellie has to take safeguarding seriously with the new job. I don't think you're a doctor or anything like that. Is there any, can you give us your school certificates? You know, if you've got any kind of like studies in biology or anything like that that can corroborate this, or if you know a biologist who can write a letter of support, that would be very helpful. Back to the shelves, Ellie.
Just thinking about what the letter of support is for.
For the Animal Penis Facts, to say that Ellie is providing an education.
Oh, okay.
Rather than
what you mean.
any other reason, yes.
I
Well,
thought,
it's good that you asked for clarification, because sometimes I just steamrolled ahead and I assume that the listeners know what I'm talking about. But feel free, Ellie, if there's any other times when you listen to the podcast that you feel like the listeners might not have got a handle on something, then feel free to write that down and we can sort of do a little correction and amendments feature.
Because I live with you. I do have
That is tricky because you live with me. At the end of that sentence.
I do have more of an insight on what the bloody hell you might be talking about, but sometimes I've got no idea at all. But yeah, so the shelves are done, which was quite a feat given the amount of stuff that was in that room, and doing it solo as well. And I've started putting things on them.
Oh, but what things? Maybe don't tell us what's on the shelf right now.
Oh, okay.
You could give us a little running commentary of what's on the shelf next week when it's all stacked up there, and maybe listeners could guess. What kind of things do you think? Come on, Olivia, what's on the shelf? A new feature. What's on the shelf? Get in touch, and we'll see if people guess it right. I mean, you know, we'll see how we get on with that. Always thinking.
The saddest Guessing game.
Always advancing. Now, before we go, we have a comment from Olivia, don't we?
Oh, we do. Another fabulous episode. I too was unfamiliar with the books of Julia Donaldson until 4 years ago when my daughter came along. Stickman is a heartwarming tale of a poor stick who gets lost and needs to find his way home. I won't spoil it for you, but it takes a rather dark turn in the middle before suddenly becoming very festive.
Oh. So that was because I was in the park and all of a sudden, as I walked up with my cane towards the pond, a woman suddenly said, Stickman, beware of the goose. And I assumed she was talking to a child, and it was something out of a book. But then I wasn't sure whether she was just referring to me, bearing in mind I'm blind and I had my white cane, as Stickman, and she was just telling me to beware of the goose. But I think it is from a Julia Donaldson book.
It is. Your guide dog story this week reminded me of when I was a teenage waitress many years ago, and I was working at a wedding in the grounds of someone's posh house. Next door, we had an English bull terrier who, while we were all out serving food, wandered into the kitchen and consumed an entire large wheel of brie. We ushered him back home quickly to let his owner deal with the fallout, and then she's done a sort
fallout
of
indeed.
a little vomity emoji and a laughing emoji. And also, her voice is definitely not deep. She sings soprano.
Well, she says she sings soprano, but yet I thought you might have sent us, in that case, a rendition of you singing Vera Lynn in the shower. Just to stress, by the way, I don't think we pointed that out on the podcast. Well, I certainly pointed it out during the shower episode, but fortunately we weren't videoing, so you wouldn't have noticed. We were referring to audio only, by the way. I'm not sure if we specified that before people start sending videos. But I say that before people start sending videos in. No one so far has sent an audio clip of them doing Vera Lynn in the shower.
Disappointing.
Exactly.
You're all slackers.
I mean, that's a bit of fan fiction that's rather niche, doing Vera Lynn in the show. But anyway, meet again indeed. Ellie's mother kind of paid us a bit of an inverted compliment the other day. She was round and... Well, I say she was round. She's lost a lot of weight since. I mean, she came here to our house, is what I'm saying. She said that she hasn't listened for a while because she said she had a bit of a problem with the podcast. She says she normally listens to podcasts when she's trying to get to sleep, but she's not been able to do that, and she stopped listening because she used to put the podcast on and then it kept her awake for too long, presumably because she was enjoying it so much. Maybe it just angered her, the life choices that you have made, Ellie. So she says she's going to have to listen to it when she's fully awake.
Yeah.
Because I have been keeping his mother-in-law up at night. So there we go. Yeah. Now, I was just about to wrap it up there, but I've realised we're not videoing, the listeners can't see, so I'll leave it unwrapped. Are we trying an accent?
I don't want to try an accent.
We've had Welsh.
I don't want to do an accent, David.
Okay,
and
but
nobody has commented saying they like them. Therefore, we should not continue.
All right, okay, well, there you go, listeners. I tell you what, that's a good little idea there. We're going to retire Ellie's accent feature unless you have a special request that you would like, listeners. So there you go.
No. I'm not.
That's what you were saying, I think.
No.
I think so. I think that's exactly what Ellie just said there.
Because then somebody will go, oh, can you do a Sri Lankan accent or something? And I'm like, no.
Well, you see, and where's the BBC Radio 4 continuity announcer from? Because he's got a wonderful accent.
I don't know where he's from.
When I had my See No Eagle show, which is still available on BBC Sounds, when that was announced on BBC Radio 4, I wanted to record I listened to it going out live just so I could hear what the announcer was, and I was really pleased to hear that it was that announcer with the brilliant accent. But I will do it because I don't think there's anything wrong with it. They do it on Dead Ringers, so why can't I? And I think it sort of sounds like now on BBC Radio 4, blind folk singer and comedian David Eagle presents 15 minutes of stand-up comedy in See No Eagle. He's such a wonderful voice.
British Jamaican.
Right.
And apparently his distinct tone and accent initially sparked controversy, but later made him beloved regular voice of Radio 4.
Yeah, I will admit, actually, when I first heard it, I did think this is a bit of an odd choice. Now, he is a staple part of BBC Radio 4. I would say I'd say now the voice of Radio 4. So I was so pleased that he was doing the announcement.
He's 45.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, because he's got a voice of gravitas, and that feels like it should be mid-50s and upwards.
That's his voice. Oh, my God.
And he's been doing this for 20 years.
That's 20 years. So when he was 25.
Yeah.
When he was 25, he hello, you're speaking like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I wonder how long he was speaking like that. How his voice was when he was at school.
Yeah.
Like when all the other kids are going, good morning, Mr. Jenkins. Good morning, everybody. You just have him, you just hear him and just going, good morning, Mr. Jenkins. Good morning, everybody.
I mean, I don't think you can talk because we've heard young you and you've got a very deep voice as a youngster. I've just done it with my search. It says, his voice has been described as both calming and authoritative. So I would wonder if the listeners were going to describe your voice, David Eagle, in 2 words, what would they be? So maybe that's our little get in touch.
I think what Ellie's trying to do here is she's trying to put you off the scent with the accent suggestions, I think. And she's thinking, if I can just think of another thing that they could do, I might distract them. So let me just remind them. Let me just remind them about the accent thing there.
Or if people did want to send us audio clips, as well as them singing in the shower, who can do a good impression of David Eagle that we could play on the podcast?
Now that actually put that on the back burner because, oh yes, we always have a sacrifice at the end of the podcast, listeners, just to...
Usually my bloody sanity.
Anyway, yeah, we'll put that on the back burner because actually there is a thing that we did in our Big Borough Bash to celebrate 20 years of the Young'uns where people did impressions. Now, a lot of people who aren't folk fans will not know some of the people, but we did have a celebrity impression. So we'll play that next week and see if you can work out who that is. So there's so much to look forward to next week, but we must leave it for this week, for goodness sake, because it's been a massively busy week, and I thought this was just going to be a really quick one.
It was just meant to be 2 minutes, but we're so bad at being...
again, we've done it. We can't be quick.
We can't be quick, can we?
Which is why we just don't bother getting round to it, which links us back to the start of this entry. But at least your thighs are getting a good exercise with the old thigh master there. Yeah. Well, I don't really know how to end. It just seems weird just saying goodbye without any...
But we used to do that.
Yeah.
And then you played your music.
That's a good impersonation of that. In fact, maybe I won't bother doing the music. We'll just have Ellie doing it instead. We'll see it. Well, there we go. Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. We'll be back next week. Keep the comments coming. I'm just talking to you, Olivia, really, to be honest. There's a few other people as well, in fairness. The David Eagle Podcast at gmail.com, or reach out on the old... Or you can reach out on the socials at The David Eagle. And now from me, David Eagle.
And from me, Ellie Eagle Skinner.
It's goodbye.
Bye. I forgot how it goes.
That's not how it goes. I mean, I don't know what that one is. That's the orchestral version. That's for the 50th year special.